The sky above the Valeri homeworld burned red. Once peaceful and green, the great city of Ayara now lay shattered. Its shining towers, once proud symbols of knowledge and peace, were broken like dry sticks under a heavy boot. Smoke rose in thick columns. The air smelled of ash, melted metal, and fear. Across the ruined courtyards and fire-scorched gardens, the Valeri people ran not to fight, not to win, but simply to survive another hour. The Karnak swarm had come without warning. Cold, merciless, and impossible to stop. Their ships were not elegant or even fast, but they were endless. Black and round like diseased insects, they blotted out the sky with their numbers. Where they landed, nothing was left. No prisoners, no survivors. No reason, just hunger. It had been 40 days since the first Karnak ship entered Valeri space. 40 days since the Valeri High Council had sent out its calls for aid, and 40 days of silence in return. Not even a whisper from the Galactic Accord. No fleets, no supplies, no words. The galaxy had already decided Valeri was doomed, and no one comes to help the doomed. In the deep ice chambers beneath the Hall of Echoes, the last remaining council members met. They stood under flickering lights, dressed not in their traditional white robes of peace, but in dark gray armor, made of soft metal and memory cloth. Even their eyes had changed, once full of wisdom, now filled with something else, desperation. Double quotes, "The outer colonies have fallen," said Elder Kale. "Our defense grid is failing. The swarm will break through to the capital within the day." Another counselor, old and trembling, leaned forward on his staff. "Have we no weapons left?" "Weapons?" Kale laughed bitterly. "We were a people of art, not war. We built libraries, not armies. What we have now are shields made of pride and armor built on hope." There was silence. Then a voice spoke quietly from the shadows. "We still have the last beacon." All turned to look. The voice belonged to Lyra once, a student of history, now acting as both messenger and guardian. She stepped forward, holding a small, ancient device in her hands. It pulsed slowly with light, like a heartbeat. "The deep beacon," Kale said softly. "It's too old, too slow. It was built before hyperspace relays. Before the Accord, who would even hear it?" "No one," said Lyra. "And maybe that's what we need. A voice that isn't shaped by politics or fear. Something pure." Kale hesitated. "If we send that signal, we admit what the galaxy already believes, that we are finished."
Lyra
didn't blink. "Then let the galaxy believe what it wants. I'd rather die calling for help than die in silence, without waiting." She placed the beacon on the center table and activated it. It shuddered, groaned, then lit up, casting a soft blue glow that spread across the room. A voice filled the chamber. It was not a living voice, but an echo from the past. "This is the deep beacon of Valeri. We are unarmed. We are falling. We request aid from any who hear us. We offer no wealth, no technology, only a plea." The signal launched into space. Low, slow, old. A message carved not in code, but emotion. It passed beyond the burning system, beyond the noise of the modern galaxy, into the void, where someone, or something, might still be listening, far away, past the spinning wheels of trade hubs and the glittering towers of the Accord's capital worlds. The signal drifted, ignored by most, filtered out by many, until it reached a planet. Should never have heard it. Earth. On the black surface of Earth's orbital defense station, the signal tripped an old algorithm buried beneath layers of security code. It wasn't meant to trigger anymore. But it did, and deep inside, a silent room filled with screens and shadows. A woman opened her eyes. She was not a general, not a politician. Her name was Commander Evelyn Roz, leader of Expeditionary Task Force 9, also known by its unofficial title, the Deathworlders. She listened to the signal once, then again, she didn't ask permission. She simply stood and sent out a single command to her fleet. prepare the crows. 6 hours later, Earth's sky darkened, not with clouds, but with engines. Hidden bases and underground bunkers, massive ships began to rise. Their hulls were dark gray, built for speed, survival, and one purpose: war. No ceremony, no news coverage. No flags, just steel and silence. The fleet moved like a predator that had smelled blood, not a rescue mission, a response. Back on Valeri, Karnax breached the final defense grid. Fire rained down from above. The ground split open. Giant creatures, half machine and half flesh, poured into the city. The Valeri had nothing left to stop them. Lyra stood atop the temple ruins, holding her staff like a weapon. She looked to the sky not in hope anymore, but simply to watch it fall. And then, it didn't. A new shape broke through the atmosphere. Sleek. Silent. Blacker than the blackest shadow, it moved through the clouds without sound, ignoring gravity like it didn't exist. Then came another. And another. Hundreds. Thousands. Thousands. Valor. They looked up, mouths open, eyes wide. The Karnax turned their attention upward, and that's when the sky screamed. Not with thunder, but with metal. Deathworlder. Dropships tore through the Karnax ranks like falling swords. No banners. No mercy. They landed in perfect formation, each pod opening to reveal a soldier clad in black armor, faces hidden behind masks. They didn't speak, they didn't explain, they just moved. One motion, one unit. One storm, Karnax fell in droves. Machines melted under Earth's weaponry. Their screams were drowned in the roar of pulse cannons. The Valeri couldn't even tell if these humans were alive or machines themselves. They fought without pause, without fear, without hesitation. And, within 15 minutes, the entire Karnax force in the capital had been wiped out. Not beaten, erased. Lyra stood frozen. A Deathworlder walked past her, scanning for survivors. She called out, "Wait, who are you?" "Why are you here?" The soldier paused, then turned slightly. The voice came through a mask, cold and clear. "You called," he answered. Lyra trembled. "You're human." The soldier didn't reply. He simply looked up and above them. The full Earth fleet filled the sky like a second planet. No lights, no welcome, just presence. And in that moment, every Valeri knew they were no longer alone. But they also knew something else, something colder. These were not saviors. They were not here to rebuild temples, or hold hands, or offer comfort. These were beings from a world so dangerous that even their children grew up with scars, the kind of world that makes monsters or legends. And they had come, not because they were good, not because they cared, but because someone had dared to scream across the stars, and the Deathworlders had heard. The black ships did not shimmer in sunlight. They didn't shine, flash, or signal peace. They simply hovered above cities, rivers, oceans like shadows that had forgotten how to move. Valeri citizens stared up at the sky, paralyzed by awe and fear. Even the Karnax beasts of chaos, merciless and many, paused in retreat, confused by the sudden shift. This was not a rescue, this was not a fleet. It was a warning written in metal, and everyone understood it. The landing zones were chosen. Without permission, the Earth fleet didn't ask the Valeri leaders where to go or how to help. Dropships fell from orbit with machine precision, punching through debris-filled skies and hammering into city squares, plains, and mountaintops alike. They came like a storm. Inside the lead vessel, Commander Evelyn Roz watched the world spin. Below, her expression didn't change. She had seen dozens of broken planets before. Ruins were just settings. What mattered was the threat Karnax. They were the reason she came, not the Laye. Not their songs, not their sorrow. She didn't care about those things. Her orders were clear. Stop the swarm. Burn the infection. Stabilize the zone. What happened? To the civilians was someone else's department, far away in some galactic accord. Briefing room: this was a Deathworlder operation, which meant nothing was left to chance below. The first wave of Earth units began moving through the ruined city. of Yara. The Deathworlders were not loud. Their boots didn't clank. Their weapons made no sound when fired. Their armor absorbed light like a black hole, to the Valeri watching from cracked windows and shattered walls. The humans looked like creatures, made from smoke and fire. One Valeri elder whispered, "They walk like they've done this before." He was right, because they had. In the old temple square, Lyra stood at the edge of a crumbled column. She gripped her staff tightly, watching the Deathworlders spread across the ground like oil. They said nothing, gave no orders to the locals. They did not try to lead. They simply worked. One group began building a shield arrayed all black, towers pulsing with quiet blue energy. Another group dragged Karnak's bodies into a pile, spraying them with nanite fire that consumed flesh, bone, and metal within seconds. Others moved through buildings, tagging weak structures for demolition. No one explained anything. Not one soldier spoke a word to the people they had just saved. Elder Kale was finally allowed access to one of the Central Earthfield commanders. He approached the human cautiously. The soldier's armor was dented, scorched, and marked with glowing data lines. A rifle longer than a Valeri adult rested at his side. Commander Kale said, trying to keep his voice calm, "We thank you for your ... intervention, but we need to coordinate." Our people, the Deathworlder, raised a hand. "No coordination needed," he said. "Mechanical." Kale frowned. "But you're occupying our capital. We're securing it. For what? For you. For now." That was the moment the Valeri leadership realized they weren't in control. This was not an alliance. This was not cooperation. This was a containment operation, and they were the variable being contained. Elsewhere, Lyra followed a Deathworlder. Scout patrol through the market ruins. The humans moved fast, clearing nests, scanning for heat signatures, checking for Karnak spores. Their machines buzzed softly. Drones flew ahead like hawks, mapping every shadow. She tried to speak to them. "What are you looking for?" They ignored her. "I sent the signal," she said louder. Still nothing. Finally, one of them turned. Not the leader. Just a soldier. His helmet hissed as it opened, revealing a scarred human face with pale eyes and an old burn across his cheek. "You called for help," he said. Double quotes, "Yes. Then stay out of our way." That night, black towers rose from the ground, like dark trees. The Earth fleet had deployed atmospheric stabilizers, electromagnetic jammers, and auto-defense guns around every major Valeri city. Anyone who moved during curfew was targeted by drones, no questions, no warnings. The Valeri people had been saved from the Karnaks, but they were no longer free. A young Valeri boy named Talon wandered too close to a Deathworlder patrol line. His home had been destroyed, his family gone. He was barefoot and holding a toy carved from temple stone. Human sniper saw him through a scope, marked him, then paused. A moment passed, then another. Finally, the boy was waved through by a drone, redirected to a nearby shelter guarded by Earth medics. The sniper lowered his rifle but never took his finger off the trigger. In a hidden underground lab, Earth scientists began scanning the planet's soil, atmosphere, and population. They didn't ask permission. They didn't announce their work. They were collecting samples data, DNA, something else. One Valeri medic found a report left open on a console. She read one line before being escorted away by a silent guard. Valeri genome shows resilience under trauma. Potential use in long-term survival testing? That night, she told no one what she saw, but she didn't sleep again. Commander Evelyn Roz stood in her command chamber, arms crossed behind her back, watching orbital feeds. One of her officers spoke quietly. "We've secured 6 major zones. No Karnak's presence. Locals mostly compliant. Mostly some civilians, asking questions, trying to approach units." Roz didn't look away from the screen. "They called for help. They got us. We didn't come for their approval. We came for the problem." At dawn, massive Earth banners appeared across the city's digital holograms that hovered in the air. Not flags, not propaganda, just 3 words, repeated in every known language. "Zone controlled. Do not resist." The message was not violent, but it didn't need to be. The Valari had seen what Earth soldiers could do. They had watched 1,000 Karnak's warriors turn to ash in seconds, and they had seen those same warriors beg for mercy, while the humans stayed silent. Lyra sat beside Elder Kale that evening. "They saved us," she said softly. "Didn't they?" Kale looked at the dark towers, the silent soldiers, the stars above now blocked by the Earth fleet. His voice was tired. "Yes. But I don't think we'll like the world they leave behind." And up above, in the heart of the Deathworlder flagship, Commander Raz stared at a glowing map of the planet. Karnax, Nescon, Valeri. Defenses - irrelevant, Earth control - absolute. She gave a single new order. Begin Phase 2. No one asked what that meant, because everyone in the room already knew. They hadn't come to help a people. They had come to finish a war, and the Valeri homeworld was now part of the battlefield. The wind was silent before it screamed. At the edge of the northern ridge, where twisted metal and scorched forest met the icy cliffs of Valari's last mountain pass, the Karnaks returned. Not in mass swarms like before, but in something worse stealth. They crawled under the radar, burrowing through ground sensors, moving like shadows beneath fire-scorched snow. Valeri scouts didn't see them coming, but Earth's Deathworlders did. Lieutenant Rail, Valeri's youngest tactical observer, stood atop a crumbled control tower. Through his lens, he saw only dust. The landscape was quiet, still. Too still. His commander whispered beside him, "Anything?" Rail shook his head. Nothing but broken trees and... Wait, a flicker, tremble in the earth. Then came the... growled low, dull, wet, and then impact. The snow exploded as a Karnax reaver burst from beneath, slicing through a defense drone like butter. Its talons spun in arcs of blood and sparks, and a second and third beast followed, leaping through the flames. The mountain valley ignited. Rail screamed into his "Come, they're here." There, but by the time his message reached the main command, the Karnaks had already overrun the ridge, or so they thought. The sky didn't roar with thunder. It simply cracked open, a black earth. Drop pod slammed into the center of the attack, crushing one of the reavers on impact. Silence then. The pod hissed. Its walls fell away, and from it stepped a single human, tall, heavily armored, holding no gun, no sword, just a metal staff shaped like a burning spike. The Karnaks charged him. He didn't move. He waited then. He raised the spike and activated the war core. It was not a weapon by design. It was a punishment. The spike exploded with controlled plasma, melting snow, skin, armor, and bone. A 15-meter radius of death expanded outward in one breath, slicing through the Karnaks like they were paper dolls. Rail saw it all from above. He watched the Deathworlder rise from the smoke, half of his armor gone, part of his face exposed. His skin was burned, but his expression was calm. More pods landed around him. Dozens, then hundreds, and the Deathworlders began to walk. There was no radio chatter, no shouting, no fear. The Deathworlders moved like ghosts with a purpose. Every motion was practiced, precise, and the Karnaks had no answer. Their swarm tactics failed. Their rage meant nothing. For every Valeri city they had burned, for every nest they had once feared, Earth now gave them war. Not just to win, but to make an example at the center of the Valeri Plains, near the old monument gardens. A group of Karnax creatures surrounded a damaged school shelter. Civilians hid inside. No Earth units were present. The Karnax roared. They broke down the outer wall. And then, without warning, 5 Earth soldiers appeared. No words, no announcements. They cut down the first wave with precision shots, spinal nerves, eye sockets, soft tissue gaps. The Karnak screamed. The second wave came. 1 Earth soldier fell. The others kept firing by the end of it. The Karnaks were a burning pile of limbs. Not one reached the shelter, but then something happened. One of the remaining Karnaks wounded. It's unarmed, cornered, curled up. It dropped its weapons. It knelt, It spoke in broken Valeri mercy. The civilians inside gasped, even the Valeri. Child closest to the window whispered, "It surrendered." Then, without a word, the lead Earth soldier raised her weapon and fired, point blank. Back at the Earth Command bunker, Lyra saw the footage. She stared at the frozen screen. A Karnak's kneeling, human pulling the trigger. She turned to Elder Kale, whose face had gone pale. "They didn't even hesitate," she whispered. "They don't believe in mercy," Kale said. "They were never trained to understand it." That night, a group of Valeri healers tried to approach a Deathworlder patrol. They carried white flags and healing kits. The patrol stopped them with laser sights. No shots fired. The message was clear. "Stay out of the way. This is not your war anymore." In orbit, Commander Evelyn Roz reviewed the footage. Her officer hesitated. "Commander, there's footage of surrender. Civilian broadcasts might misread it." Evelyn didn't blink. "We're not here to show mercy. We're here to eliminate a threat." But did the Karnaks show mercy to the children of Kareth Prime? Did they spare the priests of Vorn? The farmers on Vio? No, ma'am. Then neither will we. And so it continued, day after day, wave after wave. The Deathworlders cut through Karnak's forces with terrifying efficiency. They destroyed not just nests, but entire cave systems, forests, and mountain chains where the swarm might hide. They didn't stop when the enemy broke. They didn't stop when they ran. They stopped only when nothing remained. Valeri. Civilians began to whisper there. Not soldiers. There's something else. Maybe they hate the Karnaks more than they love anyone. Maybe they only know how to destroy. And yet, the planet was safer. Children slept again. Fires were no longer rising every night. Refugees returned to shattered towns and found food, drops, medical tents, and water filters, all from Earth. But always near a tower, always under a watchful drone, and always surrounded by silence. Lyra stood with Young, Rail one night near the shattered Temple of Wind. "They saved us," Rail said, repeating it like a question. Lyra watched a Deathworlder soldier walk past, armor painted in fresh Karnak's blood. She didn't answer because she wasn't sure anymore what they had been saved into. Above them, Earth Command began. To prepare its next stage, the fleet had full orbital control. Karnak's retreat signals had been intercepted. Their final world had been found. Evelyn Roz gave the next command with no emotion. "Prepare for planetary strike. Full system sterilization." It's no hesitation, because for Earth's Deathworlders, first contact was just the beginning, and first blood was only ever the start of something far worse. The sky above the Valeri capital was no longer red. Not from fire, not from smoke. Not from the burning wreckage of Karnak's hive ships. It was gray now, still heavy. A quiet sky without battle cries, without falling ash. But not peaceful, because peace wasn't what Earth had brought. They brought control, and the sky, like the cities below, now obeyed them. In the city of Elsion, once a holy place for Valeri culture and history, construction machines hummed night and day. Else, not Valeri machines, Earth. Machines, robotic and tireless. They dug into sacred courtyards. They drilled under temples. They dismantled memorial walls and used the stone to build. Tactical towers, tower by tower, wall by wall, zone by zone, Earth was dividing the cities. Like puzzle pieces, the locals called it the quiet grid. Every tower had silent drones perched atop watching. Every movement, scanning every heat signature, following every conversation that rose above a whisper. Streets once filled with markets and laughter now held patrols of faceless Earth soldiers who never removed their helmets. They didn't shout, they didn't threaten, but the threat was always there. At the center of this grid stood Command Node, Theta, the black heart of Earth's occupation. Inside, Commander Evelyn Roz studied planetary schematics. Civilian resistance activity? She asked without looking up. "Minimal," replied an officer. One gathering in the East City sector. They were praying, armed. "No, Block their comes. Release a pacification drone. Low frequency flash. Keep it below 20 decibels. Yes, Commander. No one in the room questioned the command, because Earth didn't rule with bullets anymore. It ruled with silence. And rules. The Valeri High Council, what little remained of it, was finally summoned for an official meeting. They were led through black corridors under the command node. The walls buzzed with strange energy, and every third step was watched by a moving camera. When the council entered the chamber, they found no chairs, only a large screen, and a human voice coming through a speaker. Commander Raz, you asked to speak? Elder Kale stepped forward. His robes were worn, his eyes older than ever. We demand to know when your forces will return control of our cities to us. All silence. Then, control is not being returned. Why? Because you're not ready, gasps among the council. Kale tried to stay calm. You came to protect us. You arrived by our signal. We never gave you the right to rule. You lost the right to rule when your planet became a Karnak's feeding ground. Another counselor stepped forward. That was not our choice. We didn't ask for this war. And yet you started it the moment you asked us for help. The call ended. No more discussion that day. Earth deployed behavioral zones across the city's new signs, marked with 3 colors. A blue safe movement, yellow, restricted hours red, no civilian access as Valeri child crossed, into a red zone while chasing a ball. A drone stunned him. He lived, but the message echoed across every home. Follow the rules, or disappear. Elsewhere, Lyra sat at the back of a Valeri food tent. The Earth's rations tasted like nothing. The water was cold and perfect, but too perfect. Even in kindness, it felt artificial, managed, calculated. Rael joined her. He looked tired, angry. They're not protectors. He said. Lyra nodded. They're administrators. The Karnaks killed our bodies. The humans are killing everything else. Word began to spread of Earth's deeper projects. Drones spotted digging deep beneath ancient temples. Entire Valeri libraries sealed off. At first, the Earth soldiers said it was for security. Then someone found an old data slate with Earth markings on it, showing charts of Valeri DNA, culture patterns, resource maps. They weren't just defending Valeri. They were cataloging them that night. Lyra and Rael crept toward one of the sealed temple zones. They watched Earth engineers carry away ancient relics, some for study, some for storage, others destroyed. Rael whispered, "Why destroy?" Lyra's voice trembled. Maybe because they don't want us to remember who we were. Before them, in orbit, on the Black Earth's flagship, Sol's Judgment, Commander Ra stood with her science officer. The officer handed her a data report. We've finished the primary behavioral mapping. Valeri populations are compliant. Genetic adaptability is high. Cultural friction minimal under suppression. Ra skimmed the file. Begin prepping the template for long-term stabilization. Yes, Commander. Do you want local input? No. The fewer voices, the smoother the control. Elder Kale attempted one final act of diplomacy. He broadcast a signal across all open Earth frequencies. We called you to help, not to rule. Our people survived the Karnaks. We'll survive you too. But we must remember who we are. Let us rebuild our own future. The message was live for exactly 43 seconds before Earth. Command jammed it. Every copy was deleted. Kale was placed under protective custody, which no one ever saw him leave. The streets grew quieter, smiles disappeared, children stopped asking questions, and somewhere deep in the rebuilt city, a small group of Valeri began to meet in silence, underground. In the places the Earth drones couldn't yet reach, their goal wasn't rebellion. Not yet. Their goal was to remember, because remembering was now the most dangerous thing left. They would speak of the before times, of the temples, of the stories, of the stars, and of a moment when they sent a message into space, begging for salvation, and what answered was Earth's most dangerous creation. Not monsters, not saviors, but Deathworlders. who had turned protection into a prison and peace into law. The city slept beneath a heavy, watchful sky. Earth's quiet grid had silenced the streets, muted the voices, and tamed the restless hearts. The Valeri people moved through their days like shadows, careful, quiet, cautious, eyes lowered. Words measured. Trust vanished. The Deathworlders watched, always watching, but their presence was invisible. Not a soldier in sight. No patrols on the streets. No drones above. Only silence. A silence that was waiting. But the silence was a lie in the broken corners of Elsie and in the ruined halls of the Temple of Winds. And deep beneath the cracked foundations of ancient palaces, whispers began. Whispers of rebellion, of hope, of fight yet to come. Lyra and Rael moved among these whispers, gathering scattered fragments of courage and fury. We cannot wait for them to decide our fate. Lyra said in a hushed voice, as they huddled in a hidden cellar. The Deathworlders do not protect, they control. We must remember who we are. Rael nodded grimly. But what can we do? Their machines watch everything. Their soldiers kill without question. Lyra's eyes burned. We fight with shadows, use their silence against them. Above Earth Command considered the stillness a success. Commander Evelyn Raz reviewed the reports. No resistance. Populations compliant. Control is absolute. Yet in the quiet reports, small warnings appeared: unexplained power outages, disappearances in restricted zones, encrypted signals caught but not traced. Raz dismissed them. No rebellion is born in silence, but all rebellions begin with a whisper. Meanwhile, the Karnaks were not silent. In the dark void beyond Valera's atmosphere, the swarm gathered their shattered forces, wounded, desperate but not defeated. Karnak's queen, a monstrous blend of flesh and machine, pulsed with rage and calculation. The Deathworlders are strong, but they bleed. We will return. We will reclaim. We will burn their skies again. The swarm began assembling a new weapon, a storm of destruction that could shatter planets and silence entire fleets. Back on Valeri, Lyra discovered a hidden vault beneath the temple ruins, ancient technology, lost knowledge and weapons forgotten by time. The first spark of hope. She shared the discovery with Rael and the underground group. This is our chance. To strike. To show them we still live. Rael smiled for the first time in months. And let's make them remember what fear feels like. The quiet was broken not by sound but by a message. A single encrypted signal sent to Earth's command. Intercepted by Deathworlder intelligence. You think this peace will last? It will not. Commander Raz clenched her fists. Prepare. For conflict? The storm is coming. The Valeri waited. The Deathworlders prepared. The Karnaks brewed their fury. And somewhere, beneath the ruins and shadows, a rebellion grew in silence. The war was far from over. It was only just beginning. The Valeri underground stirred beneath the surface of a silent city. The Deathworlders believed they had crushed all opposition, but shadows lengthened where light could not reach. In hidden tunnels and forgotten catacombs, a new kind of war was quietly born, one of secrecy, cunning, and relentless will. Lyra and Rael led this fragile resistance, a small band of survivors who refused to surrender their world. Their weapons were old Tacanian pulse rifles, hacked drones, and relics from Valeri's forgotten wars. Their greatest strength was knowledge of Earth's patterns, of the Deathworlders' limits, and of their own home's secret passages. Each day, the Deathworlders marched openly through the cities, commanding obedience with their cold silence and deadly precision. But beneath the streets, the resistance moved like ghosts cutting communications, sabotaging supply lines, and slipping poison into water filters. They struck swiftly and vanished before anyone could respond. Rael glanced at a hacked Earth feed, watching the confusion grow among Deathworlder ranks. They think we are gone, but we are the storm beneath their feet. Lyra nodded. The longer we wait, the stronger we become. Commander Evelyn Raz sensed the shift. Reports of system failures, sudden drone blackouts, and mysterious fires were no accidents. "They're here," she told her officers, voice hard. Her strategy changed from domination to hunting. Deathworlder squads trained for silent tracking, using every technological advantage to root out the hidden enemy. Every captured insurgent was a warning. Every raid a message. Resistance meant death. Yet the more they crushed, the more the rebellion spread. In the shadows, Valeri families hid. Their young. Schools were shuttered, replaced by secret lessons in survival and old songs of freedom. Lyra taught her people not just to fight, but to remember what they were fighting for, their history, their dreams, their right to live without chains. One night, beneath the flicker of ancient lamps, a young girl whispered to Lyra, "Will the Deathworlders ever leave?" Lyra looked into the child's hopeful eyes and smiled faintly. "One day. But until then, we will make sure they know we are still here." Above, the Karnaks regrouped. Their queen, wounded but unbroken, sent new warships. Deeper into the void. Their target was clear, the Earth fleet and the Valeri world they now protected. "They brought death," she hissed. "We will bring chaos." Her forces prepared for a strike that could shatter the fragile hold Earth had on Valeri forever. Back. On the planet, Earth forces tightened their grip, built new sensor arrays, installed mine-jamming towers, and increased patrols. But even as they fortified, they could not shake the feeling of unseen eyes watching. Deathworlder intelligence. Analysts argued quietly about the nature of this enemy. Not an army, but a movement. Not soldiers, but ghosts. In one daring raid, Lyra's group disabled a major Earth's communications hub. For hours, the city fell into darkness. Panic rippled through the Deathworlder ranks, but when the lights returned, the rebellion had left no trace. Only one message remained, etched in the rubble. "We are everywhere." Commander Roz stared at the message in silence. Her voice was cold but certain. "Then we will hunt everywhere." The hidden war had begun, no longer a simple battle for survival. It was a struggle for a future where the Valeri would either be free or become shadows of themselves, and neither side would rest until the final victory was claimed. The cold dawn crept over the Valeri ruins, casting long shadows where freedom once thrived. The resistance had grown no longer a whisper but a roar beneath the surface. Lyra and Rael now led hundreds, each willing to risk everything to reclaim their world. But the enemy they faced was no longer just the Karnaks or even the Deathworlders, it was the darkness within. Earth's grip tightened like iron bands.
Ow.
The quiet grid was now a cage, and every act of defiance was met with brutal consequences. The Deathworlders had perfected control, not only over bodies, but minds. Psychological warfare, propaganda broadcasts, and endless surveillance crushed hope in daylight. Lyra sat in a hidden chamber, reviewing stolen Earth documents. The truth was more terrifying than she had imagined. Earth's invasion was never about salvation. It was about experimentation, genetic manipulation, behavioral control, using Valeri DNA as test subjects for something far worse than war and evolution designed to create perfect soldiers. Obedient and ruthless, the Valeri people were not just prisoners, they were living laboratories. Rael returned from a sabotage mission, his face grim. "They discovered our base," he said. "They're hunting us with new techneural disruptors that can disable thoughts." Lyra clenched her fists. "Then we break the chains before they break us." Across the city, Earth's propaganda machines blared constant messages. Obedience is survival. Resistance is death. Trust the Deathworlders for peace. But the words fell on deaf ears. The underground network hacked the broadcasts, replacing them with forbidden songs and stories of old heroes. For every voice silenced, 10 more rose. Commander. Evelyn Roz received orders from the highest echelons of Earth's command. Deploy experimental squads, use neuroadaptive weapons, end the resistance. She hesitated. The line between soldier and monster blurred, but duty was clear. She gave the order. The new weapons tore through the underground like wildfire. Resistance fighters fell, minds shattered before their bodies. Fear spread like disease, yet, in the darkest moments, Lyra's resolve only hardened. "We are not weapons to be shaped," she told her people. "We are the soul of this world. The soul can never be broken." In a desperate gamble, Lyra led a raid on an Earth research facility. They stole data, weapons, and a captured Valeri child subjected to horrific tests. The rescue was costly, but the victory was priceless. The child, once broken, now smiled for. The first time, the war was no longer just for land or life. It was for the very heart of Valeri identity. As Earth's Deathworlders closed in for the final purge, Lyra and Rael prepared their people for a reckoning, a battle that would either shatter their chains or bury their world in silence forever. The first light of dawn crept cautiously over the battered city of Elsion. Smoke still curled from smoldering ruins, but something in the air had changed. The heavy silence imposed by the Deathworlders was breaking. The resistance, once scattered and hidden, now stood united, ready to fight for their world's soul and reclaim what was stolen. Lyra and Rael stood at the forefront, their faces marked by exhaustion and determination. The stolen knowledge and weapons from Earth's research labs had given them hope and the means to strike a final blow. But they knew the price of this battle would be high. The Deathworlders were ruthless, and their will was forged in endless wars. From the dark skies, Earth's fleet descended, black ships blotting out the sun like a storm ready to crush the last spark of rebellion. Commander Evelyn Roz led the assault, her voice cold and unwavering. "This ends today," she declared. "Rebellion will be erased." The battle erupted with thunder and fire. Earth soldiers advanced in perfect coordination there. Neuroweapons, firing silent waves that shattered minds. The resistance fought back with fierce determination, using guerrilla tactics, ancient Valeri traps, and the new weapons they had stolen. Valeri warriors became legends over night shadows, striking from the ruins, vanishing before the enemy could respond. The skies above roared with fire as Earth's warships unleashed volleys against suspected rebel hideouts. In the heart of the city, Lyra faced Roz in a moment that would define their worlds. "No more chains," Lyra said, voice steady. "No, more silence. You fight for freedom not just for Valeri, but for every soul crushed by your war," Roz replied. "Freedom is a lie. Order is survival. Your fight is over." Their clash was not just physical, but a battle of wills and ideals. As they fought, the people watched, some for the first time, daring to hope. When the dust settled, the cost was devastating. The streets were littered with the fallen, both Valeri and Deathworlders, but the resistance, because something had awakened in their hearts that no weapon could destroy. Lyra stood amidst the ruins, looking at the rising sun. "We are not just survivors," she whispered. "We are the dawn." Earth's Deathworlders retreated, not defeated, but changed. They had met an enemy they could not simply control or erase, a people who refused to be broken. The galaxy would remember Valer, not as a fallen world, but as a beacon of resistance. And in the quiet that followed the storm, a new chapter began. One written by the hands of those who chose freedom over fear.